Hello, I'm Jenny Luscombe, and I'm a facilitator of healing and a passionate teacher of self-healing. I'm just about to do my show on holistic radio, which happens every Monday from 5 till 6. It would really help me to help others if you would share the video, like and subscribe if you like what you found here today. And today, the topic of my show is going to be all about how to harness and receive galactic support. And today I'm also sharing an amazing alien experience that I had in the year 2021. Thank you. Hello, this is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing. And I think it might be episode 38, but I'm not quite sure. So, the topic of today's show is all about how to receive galactic support. So, I wouldn't have known anything about this a few years ago, but something did unfold in my life that was very unexpected. So I'm just going to get straight into the story. So, yes, I had a weird experience with the aliens in 2021. So what happened was, well, I'll set the scene. So round about that time, obviously 2021 was really difficult for probably everybody listening to this. I was in a dark night of the soul that had already gone on a few years, and it was kind of full throttle on steroids, and quite a lot of things were happening to me. I mean, I'd separated from a long-term partner in 2018 that I'd been with for 24 years. So just being on my own in the world for the first time since I was kind of an age 19, 20 was quite difficult to navigate. And then obviously I was attempting to navigate my child through that because that was her dad that I'd separated from. And then I'd had a boatload of turbulent relationships with lots and lots of people as a result of my spiritual awakening. I was attempting to date people, that wasn't going well. And the pandemic, obviously, I needed that like a hole in the head going through all of that. I wouldn't do masks and kind of all that sort of thing. So, everyone around me was choosing to participate in medical decisions that I could see the reality of, and no one else could. And the schools were about to start to inflict that on children. So I was really dark. I was quite dark. I was afraid for my daughter. I was afraid for her life because her dad wasn't awake. And I was afraid for my own life because I didn't at that point know how it was going to play out for souls like me choosing not to participate in the mass formation psychosis that was happening. So it's only kind of in the preparation for this show that I'm realizing how spectacularly awful it all was kind of around about then. So, just, preparing for the show was kind of therapy in itself. And then sort of putting it in context from the year 2021 to 2024, loads of other quite bad things happened to me that I'm sort of still recovering from. So 2025 is a breath of fresh air for me and everything's different. So looking back, I think this thing happened to me at a time where I was literally drowning in awful experiences, and it was a support, but I didn't see it that way necessarily at the start. So this one particular day, I'd had a friend round the night before. I can't remember what day of the week it was, but I was feeling pretty good because it was an awake friend. So it was actually, I think at the time, the only awake friend that I knew at that time. So for the time, I was feeling unusually good, having had a kind of short period of feeling connected and supported by a like-minded friend. So it was 11 o'clock in the morning. It was broad daylight. My friend was upstairs in the shower. I was downstairs in the kitchen and I made myself a brew and I went out the back and I sat down in the backyard. And this particular house that I lived in at the time was in South Liverpool in Merseyside, so just off Allerton Road, if anybody knows the area, which is very densely populated. So basically rows and rows of terraced houses. And if anybody knows Liverpool, each house has a small backyard. And so what I can see from that backyard was basically lots of houses all around me, quite an enclosed space. mainly just overlooked by other people, basically other people's bathroom windows. So I sat my bum down, I had my brew, I felt happy in that moment. And I'm not quite sure why I remember this detail, but I said, "Hello, universe." And I looked up at the sky, and directly above me were three red lights in the sky. So they were in a triangle formation. Each one was kind of moving independently of the others, but they stayed they kept in a triangle kind of formation. And they seemed quite close, but it's kind of hard to say how close they were because I didn't really know what they were. So they seemed like as close as a helicopter might be, but not as far away as a plane usually is when you see planes go over in the sky. So they were just lights. I couldn't see craft, or I couldn't see any metal, or like people talk about flying saucers. I couldn't see a shape. They were just lights. So sort of looking back on it, they kind of reminded me of those lights that you sometimes get in people's bathrooms that are kind of set in the ceiling, kind of quite glowy. But they were red. So three red lights in the sky above my house in Liverpool in a very built up area in broad daylight. So my immediate reaction was surprise. And I sort of observed myself. I wasn't scared at all. And I think I actually laughed. And I stood up and I just stood with my mouth open looking up and I felt high. So I wasn't high, as in drunk or stoned. I just felt really high. So I'd only, I think, been awake for about an hour. So I felt high and kind of giggly. And I didn't really know what to do. So I thought, I think I need to muscle test. So for some of the therapies that I do and for my own healing, I use muscle testing. So if you're not quite sure what that is, it enables you to, there's lots of different ways of doing it, but I use the sway test, which is a test you can use when you're standing up. And it enables you to ask your body yes, no questions. So you have to ask the question in a form where the answer is yes or no. And then you can receive answers from your subconscious mind that you wouldn't normally be able to access from your conscious mind. So I was quite well practiced in this already. I'd been using this for quite a few years at the time. So, but you can use muscle testing for a boatload of different things. So you can also use it to talk to your higher self or the wider universe. And some people call it dowsing. You can use it, do the same sort of thing with a pendulum. So at the time when this happened, I wasn't really particularly interested in aliens. It wasn't something I was particularly tuned into, but I was open, but I hadn't really gone down that rabbit hole. And I knew the names of some extraterrestrial species that people talked about, and I knew that some folk channeled them, and I'd seen a couple of videos, and I knew that telepathy was the main form of communication that people say that you use to communicate with aliens. So, so I thought, okay. So I stood up, and with the sway test, a yes response is swaying forward, and a no response is swaying backwards. So the first thing I said was, okay, I'm choosing to talk to you. So I said, "Are you spaceships?" And I got a yes. And then I said, "Can you see me?" And then I got a yes. And then I said, "Are you here for me?" And I got another yes. And then I thought, okay, uh, who, who are you? So I said, "Are you the Pleiadians?" And I got a no. And then I said, "Well, are you the Arcturians?" And I got a yes. And then I was just a bit overwhelmed. And, I suddenly sort of came to my senses and realized, I suddenly felt shy. I suddenly felt like, I'm being watched and this is weird and I don't really know what's going on. And I said, "I don't really know what to say now." And I think I might even have just said hello. And then I started to feel sort of some symptoms of shock kind of kicking in. And I think I was shaking quite uncontrollably. And I remember sort of briefly looking around to see if any of the neighbours were at the windows. There was no one there. I could hear that my friend was in the shower because that was the room directly above where I was. And because they were right above my house and they were kind of moving towards the roof of the house, so I thought they're going to pass over the house. So I thought of running to get my friend, but then didn't want to miss what was happening. So I just stood with my mouth open, just gaping at what was going on. And then one of them went behind a cloud, and then there was just two. And then I started to feel a bit scared. And they continued to sort of drift with the cloud, like beyond sort of the roof of the house. And I sort of became aware that they were soon going to be obscured by the roof. And I don't really know why. I don't know why I didn't run to the front of the house to see if I could see them from the front, but I didn't do that. I didn't choose to do that, and I don't know why. But anyway, they went sort of beyond the roof, and then I went into the house, and I kind of totally freaked out. And I think it crossed my mind that they might have been something dark. So I had this sort of momentary fear that there was something bad happening. Um, but I don't think I stayed on that thought for very long. And then my friend emerged and I sort of just spilled the beans on what just happened. But I didn't tell anybody else what happened. So to be honest, I struggled to process it for a few days and I worried about my mental health and I wondered if I was going mad. And I did just feel scared. And I was sort of realizing that I was pushing the whole thing away. I was asking myself questions like, what did they want? And who was it? And why me? And so I kind of went online and I looked at a few forums and I realized that, you know, there are people out there who go looking for these kind of experiences. And there's a thing called CE5, which I still don't know much about, but it's a process that you can learn to kind of telepathically send out a permission slip, please come and see me, I'm interested in you. So you can actually learn to call them and it kind of involves you expanding your energy and visualizations and all that sort of thing. Now, I hadn't been doing any of that. I wasn't going looking for this. But I became aware that you can bring sightings into your experience. So I hadn't done anything like that. But I did feel quite nervous and quite freaked out. So I shared my story on a couple of specialist sites, and there were people saying congratulations, and maybe you got activated, and then there was me saying, what does that mean, and is that good? So I just felt scared really for a couple of days, and then I thought, right, well, everything happens for a reason. I need to pull myself together and integrate the experience. So I decided to just sit in a meditation and to calm down and just sit peacefully and kind of think about what's happening to me. And so I asked, what do I need to do? What do I need to know about this visitation? And can I have some clarity? So I sat for a few minutes and quite quickly, I had like a very clear visual of an eye. And I'm not normally particularly visual, to be honest. So it was a big blue eye, just one eye, and it was beautiful. Felt sort of very sentient. It felt like connection. And I sort of felt aware that it was looking back at me. So it felt, like that feeling if you're in a public place, like in a cafe or something, and you get contact with a stranger, and then you're not sure whether to keep looking or to look away out of politeness or whatever. So it felt a bit like that. And then the fear kicked in again. And then I opened my eyes and pushed it away and then got up and walked around and just thought, oh my God, what is going on? So then, I was in full fear. I just thought, I don't like it. I don't know what this is. So I decided to distract myself for a couple of days. I couldn't handle what was happening and I thought I was losing it, quite honestly. And then part of me started to doubt that it even happened. So sort of knowing what I know about trauma, I think I was just trying to suppress the experience. So anyway, a few days later, I wasn't really thinking about it. And like I say, I kind of pushed it out of my mind. So a few days later, I was cooking dinner in the kitchen, and then Ivy walked in, my daughter, and round about then she would have been 11, 11 or 12. And she said, Mum, I drew this for you. And then she put a piece of paper down in front of me, and I nearly passed out because she had drawn a picture of a big blue eye. And it didn't really look like the eye that I saw in the vision, but I did almost have a heart attack because I hadn't told her anything about it. Because, I mean, quite frankly, what kid needs a mum that can see aliens? It's not a popular thing for a child to kind of want in their reality. So obviously I hadn't talked to it about her because she was like going through enough. Um, so I'd pushed away the experience quite a few times, and then they very persistently decided to get my attention by coming through her. So obviously I couldn't really ignore that, but somehow that made me feel better and kind of more comfortable with what was going on. So after that, I did start to gradually feel safer and like, I was feeling something good has happened rather than something bad. Um, and then, because it's a few years ago, for a couple of years, I just didn't really understand the meaning of the whole thing. I didn't know why it happened. Nothing really happened after that. Um, I didn't really know what it was about and thought, well, maybe I don't need to know. Maybe there was some sort of activation and I don't need to overthink it. But looking at it now, I think it was actually quite simple. I think they were saying, we see you, hello. I think they were basically saying hello. And, maybe they perceive me as somebody that would be daft enough to talk about this. And maybe it's part of the disclosure that they're, appearing to people, So gradually I've accepted over the years that they're around me and that they're supporting me and that they are kind of just like spirit guides. And I think that that happened to me because it's going to be happening to more and more people. Um, and I do sort of feel because I've looked more into the aliens now, I've read more, I've listened to more channelings, I listen to messages coming through other people. So I do feel that normalizing it is the way forward. And, maybe it's part of my role to normalize it and to speak about it, so that when people hear my story and then maybe they have an experience, they see that actually, nothing bad happened to me. And so maybe like a lot of my trauma, I sort of feel like I went through lots of scary experiences so other people don't have to. Maybe it's part of kind of raising the collective frequency and things like that. So, I don't think that the disclosure of the extraterrestrials, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a big glitzy, dazzling kind of landing of ships. That might happen, in some ways. I kind of hope it does. But I think that what's going to happen for maybe a few years is that they're just going to rock up in people's backyards, individually to whoever is open. And then, we can just normalize it from there. People will talk to their friends and family, and then we can start to stabilize people who are scared. I mean, like looking back at that time, I did have a couple of weird experiences, and I think it was the same year. For example, one night I woke up, I was in that sort of fog, that kind of half awake, half asleep feeling of not knowing if it's real when something happens, but it felt like my bed was shaking. Like my bed was alive and my bed was shaking, like it was lifting off the floor and shaking, like something out of Fantasia where sort of inanimate objects come to life and start dancing around the room. It kind of felt like that. And then when I realized, oh my God, my bed's shaking, and then I woke up properly, it wasn't shaking anymore. So I don't know if that actually happened, to be honest, but that was round about the same time. And I also had a couple of weird circular marks on my body. There was one on my chest and another kind of lower down, sort of by my ribs, both kind of on the left side. And I had no idea where they'd come from at all. I couldn't pin it on anything. They kind of looked like they could have been caused by suction. like that therapy when people do cupping and then they get left with these marks on your skin, kind of like love bites. It looked like that. Um, but if something had happened to me, like an abduction or what have you, I don't remember anything consciously. Um, and I don't know if the bed shaking thing even happened. And I don't know if the marks on my body or the bed shaking experiences were even connected to each other or connected to the red chips in the sky. So I don't know if they were all separate things or if they were all connected. Um, but yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a picture of the big blue eye on the channel, so that you can have a look. And I'm going to post this on YouTube as well, like I do with most of the shows. So I'll show it on YouTube as well. But when you look at it, when you look at the picture, because I've got it on my bedroom wall now, this big blue eye looking at me, um, it's kind of activating to me when I look at it. And I don't know if that's just me. So I'd be interested to see what any of you think when you look at it. Um, but it kind of sort of feels like a portal. It feels very spacey and kind of intergalactic. It feels, like a portal or something. So I feel connected to them through it, like they're with me. When I see it, I get a good feeling now when I notice it on my wall. So that's my story. And it's not normal. It's not normal at all. My daughter kind of accepts the story now. At the time, she was a bit scared by it, obviously, as you would be. And I've said to her, what were you thinking about when you drew that eye? And she does draw quite amazing things sometimes, and she doesn't really know where it all comes from. But um, she's kind of totally open to the idea that they could have come through her telepathically to get to me. She's kind of open to that now. And she's got an interesting perspective because she's sort of half awake, half asleep. She goes to school still because she's chosen to do that. And her dad's not awake like me. So she's got a very broad sort of experience of reality. But yeah, she said when she was drawing it, she was just like, oh, I don't know, I just was doodling and it just happened kind of thing. So yeah, I'm still not quite sure really what it was all about, but I do think from listening to other things, that they are just wanting to say hi and to just for us to see that they are light rather than dark. And obviously there's a light and a dark to everything, as we know. But I think that they're here to not rescue. I think they're here to support. And obviously we've been hijacked by dark forms of being, which not everybody sees it that way. But that kind of sense of they're here, we've been invaded. I think we've been invaded quite a few eons ago, and these guys that appeared to me in the sky are just part of, the light versions that are coming to assist us. So since that happened, and since I've sort of done a bit more research and feel a bit more clued up on the subject, I think there's lots of ways that we can use to harness their support. So I think that extraterrestrials, I think they have a different physics to us because they live in different star systems. So I think that mainly they're non-physical beings. And I think it's the most helpful way to think about them as being spirit guides. So I think we have ancestors that are spirit guides. I think we have, deceased family members that are spirit guides. I think we have animal guides. I think we have elementals. I think we have all kinds of guides, and I think that the ETs are here as guides and they're here to support us. And I think that they are from higher dimensions than us, in this time and space reality that we're in. So I think they're in higher dimensions, they're higher frequency than us, but I think they're very clear that they're not superior. They are our equals and that they are here to assist us, but they can't actually help without our free will, because unlike the dark beings that are here hijacking our experience, they don't believe in interference. So the light ETs don't believe in interfering with us unless we give consent for that. So we actually have to ask. So I think the main ways to harness galactic support is actually really simple. So I've got an A and a B. I think A is acknowledge their presence. So show them that you believe and that you are open. So you believe that they are there and that they're willing to help. And B, ask. So ask them for help with anything. So anything in capital letters. Um, so it sounds mad, but if you want them to engage with you, I think the best way, and I've actually heard this in a channeling, and I think it might have been the Arcturian Council coming through Daniel Scranton. He's quite an entertaining channeler of aliens because he's quite wacky, his style of connecting to them. But the messages that come through him are amazing. So I think the Arcturian Council through Daniel Scranton, I think it was them that said, just start by saying hello to them. So every time you go outside or every time you remember, just look up at the sky and say hello and even wave and smile. So do that if you can, not from a space of lack. So not from a space of neediness, like, please come and save us. Oh my God. Like, no neediness or desperation. Like, just say hello and acknowledge. So just greet them. And I think that this will not only get you on their radar for personal assistance, but it will also serve to increase the collective permission of humanity for them to intervene and to come and help and facilitate on a more massive scale than just individually. But I think individually is in itself very powerful. And I think that we're raising the frequency and we're increasing the likelihood of them being able to intervene in a big way. And, you know, I think bringing unity with our galactic friends would do us the world of good, quite honestly. So, yeah, say hello. Like, just get started by saying hello and showing them that you're open. And you could be really general and say, you know, I'm choosing to give you permission to assist in my life in any way that you see fit, in any way you think you can help me. I'm open. But I think being specific is a really good idea, to be honest. Um, so from what I'm sort of receiving through other people's channels, and I do sometimes channel myself, like through, I'm quite good at channeling through writing. So I have sort of channeled information from talking to the extraterrestrials. Kind of not, but I'm not doing that publicly at the moment, but maybe I will. I don't know in the future. Um, but getting information from all over the place about this, they're very focused on Earth right now. And I think many of us who identify as starseed or, you know, I think a lot of us think we have multidimensional past experiences of past lives or having been elsewhere in the cosmos. Some of us might even have galactic DNA. But anyway, what happens on Earth and how this all plays out affects them and the whole universe and the multiverse, which is why they're all kind of crowding around watching us and eating popcorn like we're television. And I think it's within their best interest to help us if we say so, because I think it's an interdependent relationship, not a codependent one or a narcissistic one. I think it's an interdependent relationship. So start by saying hello and just keep it that simple. And if you give permission for them to help you, I think being specific is a really good idea. So I've particularly found them very helpful in surrendering relationships to them, because if anyone has listened to my show for a while, you'll know that relationships is one of my things that I've really struggled with because I had a terrible childhood in terms of relationship. So I've actually surrendered a few relationships to them that I thought were doomed. And because, you know, I'm quite good at solving problems, but not everybody on my path around me are able to engage with healing in the way that I do. And I can't obviously, and I wouldn't want to force healing upon other people if they're not ready. So a couple of times I've just been like, oh my God, like I'm going to lose someone else here. And it's like another one bites the dust. And I just keep losing people because my frequency changes a lot. So I've said to them a few times, I don't want to lose this one. You know, can you help me? keep this person in my life. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't even know if that's possible. But if you can, I'm just done. I don't know what to do. I'm surrendering it to you. So I've actually got quite a recent example of that, which I'm going to share with you. So I do ask them to help me with healing as well. So yeah, this example. So recently, so without going into huge detail, um, I had sort of, yeah, I had a thing going on with one of my housemates where we just, even though we get on like a house on fire, sort of 99% of the time, we kept having this experience of like falling out over stuff, like getting triggered. You know, I was getting triggered, he was getting triggered, and neither of us wanted it to happen. But you know, I was trying to explain to this person who isn't on the healing path as such. He's quite an awake person in terms of the systems, but not in terms of energy and healing. So we never wanted to fall out, but it just kept happening. And so I was kind of just like over and over again, it kept happening, and I kept healing things and thinking, oh, maybe this will work. And then I just was just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to surrender it to my galactic friends and see what happens. So I tried to figure out what the pattern was. It was obviously a pattern that I had and that I was sharing with this person and that they probably had, that we'd both suppressed. And through each other, we were trying to heal this pattern subconsciously. So anyway, I asked the question, you know, what is going on here? Please help me. And just then I just sort of let it go. And I wasn't attached to the idea of whether I would get an answer or not. And I sort of forgot about it. And then that same day, so in my room, I've got, it sounds a bit weird, I've got a pink lamp. It's kind of like you might have seen, it's like a neon sign, but it's you can bend it and twist it and make it spell things out, and you can just have this beautiful message on your wall. So it says love, just the four letters love, LOVE, and it just glows pink, and I just really like it. But anyway, so the other day it fell off the wall and it was weird. I was like, oh, so the love fell down off the wall. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I thought that must mean something, but I was busy doing something and I didn't really have a chance to think about it properly. And the universe, if you don't pay attention to the first message, it will bring you another one. So later on that day, Ivy was here, and so the sign had fallen down off the wall, the love had fallen off the wall. And then I was looking out the window and there was a really clear, crisp love heart cloud formation in the sky. And I said, Ivy, look at the love heart cloud. And she was kind of distracted in doing something. And so she didn't come and look straight away. But by the time she came to the window and looked, it had moved and sort of morphed and like drifted out of the love heart shape and started to look different to a heart. And I went, oh, the love's gone away. And I was kind of joking. And she laughed. And then it clicked. The love has gone away. I was like, oh. So because because I do a lot of healing and I work with clients and I'm trying to heal PTSD, and I'm familiar with all the relationship patterns that there can possibly be. There's a pattern that I call the love's gone away. And if you have parents that were exhibiting the intermittent reinforcement pattern, so sometimes they're there and then the next minute they're gone. And then sometimes they're there for you and then the next minute they're gone. You sometimes take into adulthood this pattern of the love's gone away. Where did the love go? And then it's kind of like an addiction. And then it's kind of, I think I talked about it in one of the shows where the rats are pushing the lever, and you know, when there was a pellet they were happy, when there wasn't a pellet they were happy, when it was consistent that there was a pellet or it was consistent that there wasn't a pellet, they were happy. But when they sometimes got a pellet and sometimes didn't get a pellet, the rats lost the plot. So this is what addiction is all about. This is where addiction comes from. So I call it the love's gone away pattern. So the love fell off the wall, and then the love heart cloud, the love went away. My daughter couldn't see the love heart in the clouds because she didn't come quick enough and the love went away. And then I was like, oh, it's the love has gone away pattern. And then I realized my housemate has that pattern. and I have that pattern, and we're falling out with each other all the time, and then we're going, oh, the love's gone away, and it happened because we're supposed to be friends. And this message, I know it was the aliens. I know it sounds crazy, but I'd specifically asked for an answer to a question that I couldn't figure out, and I knew that they'd find a way to communicate with me because they always do. And it happened in the form of the love sign falling down off the wall and the love heart cloud. It's absolutely amazing and mind blowing. Um, yeah, so that really helped me. Then I went off and did some of my healing with that, and so far so good. I think I might have helped to heal that relationship for me and my friend because nothing else has happened since. So I would say anything, like ask them to help you with anything, particularly very, very resistant things that, from your perspective, in the 3D time and space that we're in, we cannot see the solution from the frequency of the problem. So if you're bogged down by a problem and you just can't see the answer, and you might even think this is completely unworkable, there isn't an answer, I don't know what the answer is, that, ask them that. So particularly things like confusion. If you're confused, ask them for clarity. Any unsolvable problem. So it really is miraculous. Um, I think so. The best way to ask is to ask, you know, I mean, ask in any way. They're just going to accept you as you are. But I think it's very important to be full of gratitude and wonder, be like a child, be like a 3-year-old looking at fireworks. Do you know what I mean? Like, send gratitude and then feel like they're on the case immediately because they will be. Because everything is speeding up. I don't know if any of you guys can feel it, but things are speeding up. Like, you're probably noticing in your own lives, things speeding up. They will be on the case immediately. As soon as you've asked, they'll just be made up that you gave them permission. And then wonder, which is the best energy, because wonder is not attachment. Wonder is like a big cosmic door of the universe, like swinging open. And just be curious and excitedly wonder how the answer is going to come. Just say to yourself, I wonder where I'll be when I get the answer. And then just feel as excited as you can and grateful. And then let it go and just go about your life. And then when the answer comes, you'll know that it's from them because it will make you laugh out loud. So like like when the red chips were above my house, I laughed. It was the first thing I did. I laughed. So that's the energy that attracts them. So kind of very childlike, high frequency, there's nothing wrong. Dance, that kind of frequency. When you're dancing, you're not dwelling on the past, you're not like fixating on the future. You're in the moment, enjoying the rhythm, enjoying the vibe, enjoying moving your body. Dance, like that kind of frequency, laughter and dance and joy. So you will know when you get the answer that it's from them because it will make you laugh. So I think in terms of who to connect with, I think is a very personal thing because there's millions and millions and millions of websites and people on YouTube talking about this, normalizing it, and there has been for years. So if you're not tuned into it yet, just have a look and like see what you think. I mean, I feel an affinity with the Arcturians, but I'm reluctant to identify specifically with them because I don't think that we are one thing. I don't even know if we have a specific soul origin. I think we are mixed frequencies of many different places, many different star systems. So there's the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Sirians, the Lyrans, the Mantis, the Blue Ray, the Blue Avians. It's basically infinite, and we couldn't possibly know them all. And I really like the way that Teal Swan put it, just talking about people being skeptical about aliens. And it's fair enough to be skeptical. But she said something which just really makes me laugh. She said, not believing in the existence of aliens is like taking a spoonful of water from the ocean and saying, there is no shark in the ocean because there is none on my spoon. So I think if you want to listen to some people channeling ET messages, I think Daniel Scranton is a really good one because the messages are brilliant and they're off the charts and they're really deep and really helpful. But he himself is really wacky, in the way that he connects with them. There's a wonderful woman on YouTube called Eluna. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce her name, but it's Eluna. And her approach is less wacky, but her information is off the charts. She's doing a lot of work in Egypt, and she's talking a lot about the recent developments regarding what's underneath the pyramids. Yeah, so there's people all over social media and all over the internet normalizing how the extraterrestrial assistance is available to all of us. I mean, after I saw the red ships, and it wasn't really because of this, I think I was already tuned into Jerry Sargent and starmagichealing. I decided to go and train in quantum healing with him, and he's very plugged into the aliens and he's had loads of alien experiences, and he taught me and the other guys like how to tune in, how to use extraterrestrial light frequencies to facilitate quantum healing. So I've been doing that for quite a few years, and so it's normal for me now. But I was scared, when I first had those experiences. I was scared, but I do think I had to be scared because I was just one of these people that, I feel all the things before everybody else does, I think. But, just because we haven't had mass disclosure yet in the mainstream world, the general public can't see and it isn't coming through the telly box, doesn't mean that it isn't already happening and millions of us aren't already engaging with them. So I would advise play with them. And if you feel scared, that's just normal. You will move through that. When you see how much help and assistance and peace they can bring you, your fear will soon drop away, I can tell you. And you'll just be overwhelmed by the feeling that they give you, the fact, the sense of amazement and happiness and peace that they can bring into your life when you thought that everything was, a mess and unhealable, unresolvable, unworkable. Like many people feel really stuck, and everyone, at the moment that struggles with addiction, people's problems with addiction and things like that are going through the roof right now. So if you can share this information with anyone that you think it can help, that would be amazing. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking now, and there's quite a few people here listening. So if anybody wants to join in or ask anything, then hello, hi.
Wanted to just hold your horses, Kelly. I'll be very brief. Thank you very much. There are so many things that resonated with what you said that not to the same degree, but very similar in different things. What definitely be people listening to this and want to delve more. The first name that springs to mind is David Icke. He has done, regardless of your opinion of him as a man, his research is phenomenal.
Yes.
On what it is that you can find out just by using them as an encyclopedia, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And another name that springs to mind is Zachariah Sitchin. He's done massive amounts over the years back in the day. Two of the people that I went with, so yes, everything resonated with what they said. Can't really fault it. And there are others. There are two names that popped into my head immediately. So thank you, Jenny. And I will then mute yourself and leave you to anybody else.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, thanks, Andy.
I can talk about the aliens if you want. I've seen a spaceship too, but I think don't go near channeling. Channeling is not all that help, you don't know who you're channeling, for one thing.
Yeah, I think it's the same as in the world, isn't it?
Always ask, are you 100% from source creator? If they don't answer, don't hang around because they're not from source. So there are some like that.
Yeah, I think it's the same as
channeling is dangerous.
I don't think it.
We don't know who we're channeling, and we don't know really who we're communicating with. So can communicate by frequency. Your daughter through that because she's connected to you. She wasn't channeling anyone. She was channeling you. So that's how she knew about that, right? But the main thing is, you're not, because there's going to be and all the bad ones are gone. By the way, anything you see in the sky now, they're benevolent.
Yeah, I think it's possible that the bad guys have gone, but I don't think we can be sure about that. But yeah.
Here,
yeah.
They're here. The aliens are helping us get rid of these negative Nellies that lizard seekers. And Lena Danan, I know people that know these people directly.
Yeah.
Lena Danan, Danny Henderson, Dr. Sala, Alex Collier, all these guys know what they're talking about. All of them. And Elena Danan, well,
I think
the super soldier. I can just keep going on. Jean-Claude Moyen from Canada.
I think Kevin, I think it's a bit misleading to say that channeling is dangerous because it can be dangerous to go and talk to a stranger, but it's no more dangerous than talking to people that you don't know. And like we all have to, part of our path is to, develop discernment, and that's a very, very personal journey. And I think anybody that was like, starting to channel would know that they, needed to be careful and to be taking care of their energy. I don't think it's dangerous. I think if you tell people it's dangerous, then you're possibly limiting a person's experience. I mean, obviously it's personal choice.
Yeah, you can take it in. Yeah, take the channel, but make sure where it's coming from. So there is discernment is always part of it.
I think if you say it's dangerous,
before you jump into anything.
I think if you say it's dangerous, you're going to call in danger. If you say it's safe, you're going to call in safety.
Who do you think Beyonce channels?
Well, I wouldn't know about that.
You want some photos? I was just wondering if anybody else has got any comments to make on where Kevin and Jenny are at. It's a fascinating subject to discuss, and the biggest problem that I have with any kind of discussion like this is the comment that Kevin just made about who does Beyonce channel. Well, the thing is I don't know Beyonce, and I don't know anybody that does know Beyonce. Therefore, anything that I guess Beyonce does is just a guess. It may be a good educated guess, but it's a guess nonetheless. We don't know. So unless you personally know Beyonce and you know that she does what she does, it's very, very dangerous to claim that you're just hearing things second-hand, Chinese evidence. Photographic evidence because it's a photograph or a video. It's coming out so much now that AI is changing everything to do with digitization of images, sound, audio, video. Don't believe it just because it's a picture. Be very, very careful, I would say, to anybody going down that route of, X, Y, and Z, believe it, because I've seen I've seen a volcano when a child falling into the volcano of sea and lava. And then I've seen the actual original image, which was not lava at all. So by the seaside, who just stumbled down and rocked onto the beach. So that was years ago, mate. So the manipulation of digital imagery and sound and video is everywhere. That's my own personal view, and I would be very, very skeptical. Unless you know the person personally, I'd be very wary of falling into that propaganda media that is blitzed out there. And that is one of the reasons why radio is not a channel, because specifically because of stuff like that, it's very, very easy to slip into that doom and gloom without even realising that it's occurred. But in saying all that, always keep an open mind. Don't discount it. Always keep an open mind. Never shut the thread. The minute you become to enter truth is the minute that you narrow your focus down, and it becomes that's again. For then focusing yourself in a very, very narrow field of view, then take the blinkers off, keep an open mind, question everything. That's my bit.
Yeah.
You got to remember polarity, you know, positive and negative. So that's throughout. Oh, but my friends actually met Sasquatch. He's an interdimensional, benevolent, loving entity. And when my friend approaches him or calls him in with love only, no fear, he will come. And I could maybe visit him if my frequency is right. This is pure love. Mine is not quite like that.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody listens to Mark Atwood. He's on YouTube and on Telegram, but he's been talking about the aliens for quite a few years, and he sees them so frequently, like pretty much every night, that he throws parties. He throws parties and gets people round so that they can see them in the sky above his house in Ireland. Because he's trying to.
Sean Atwood. I don't know if they're related.
No, then
Sean Atwood out there.
No, they're not. Yeah, different, yeah. But yeah, he's not trying to normalize it as well. But yeah, he proves that it's a frequency. You know, he knows that there's a certain vibe to that. You know, if he's in the wrong vibe, he doesn't see anything. But yeah, it's fascinating, and you know, I've seen other ships since then, but not kind of in an obvious way, kind of above my house. When I've been sort of out on camping trips and stuff like that, I've seen quite a few ships, but much further away and in the night sky rather than in broad daylight. So I think once you see something, I think you're more likely to.
Has anybody else genuinely seen a flying object in the sky that they can't?
Hello, Andy. I have.
There you go, pal. By the way, I'd just like to say that when I was about 12 or 13, I had a very similar experience of seeing a flying object above a hill near where we used to live. That was clearly not man-made. So yeah, that's my admission of seeing a UFO
Brilliant.
Another place.
I saw a UFO in Edmonton in the year John was waking up. He did maneuvers, no aircraft, right across the horizon like that.
And that right in front of us. Val, what's your experience, Val?
Yeah, sorry.
Jenny, can you hear Val?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Hi, Val.
Hi, Jenny. I'm just on a railway station actually, so I might have to jump on the train in a minute. I've lost my screen on my phone. It's gone blank. But as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I've had two experiences that I can't really explain. One was about 3-4 summers ago. I was driving back from a meetup with sort of like-minded people, so I was in a pretty high vibe place, you might say, and I saw this silver-shaped object, is the only way I can really describe it, up in the sky, and it was really difficult because obviously I was driving, so I couldn't keep watching it for that long. But as much as I could watch it, I could say all of a sudden it just completely disappeared. So that was, and it was very, very, shiny and reflective, very highly shiny and reflective. And then the other thing is totally different, which is maybe a year or maybe 2 years ago, because time goes, right? I was out in my garden one night, and I looked up, because I often do if I go out and it's a clear night, and very, very, very high up above me, I saw 3 lights in the shape of a triangle, and a light beam, for want of a better word, was literally going around that triangle from one point to the next point to the next point. It just kept going round, and I can't remember what I did now, but I asked for some kind of I don't know what the word is, validation, I suppose, and it was very clear. It's like, I can't explain that as anything else. Yeah, but 2 very sort of weird things that have happened to me in recent years, and I just kind of go, yeah, okay, that's what it is, that's fine, and I absolutely love it. So yeah.
How did you feel, Val, when you saw them? Did you notice that you felt different?
Really excited.
Yeah.
Just full of a joy, really, for want of a better word. Yeah. Joyful. Yeah.
Yeah, because my fear only kicked in afterwards, looking back at it and not really understanding it. But at the time, I felt amazing. It was weird. Like I felt really high. Yeah.
Yes, it's a real high feeling. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it felt like love. It didn't feel like anything bad was happening at the time.
So maybe they're downloading light codes.
Yeah, I'm kind of open to that, Kevin. I think there is some sort of exchange of energy going on. Yeah, I don't really understand it though. Anybody else want to join in, say anything?
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, is that Jackie?
Hello.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. I just wanted to pop in and say hello. That's all. I'm driving as usual. But I just wanted to say, or aliens, UFOs, etc. Think we would be quite ignorant if we thought we were alone in the universe. That's really all I want to say about the whole subject. And also agree with what Andy said as well. Now I have to concentrate back on my driving. So great show as always.
Thanks, Jackie. Have a safe journey. Yeah, I've always thought that. I think ever since I was a kid that it would be weird for there not to be other life forms. I mean, it doesn't make sense mathematically, does it? If you think about it, it doesn't make logical sense that it would just be us. And like, who do we think we are that it's just us?
Even if you're one of these Bible-bashing God believers, then you've got to believe in aliens because God in himself or herself is an alien.
Yeah.
You can't explain it any other way.
Yeah.
So if he made us in his image, what image did he make the gorillas and the chimpanzees and the giraffes and the goats and the sheep? Well, he must have got them from somewhere as well.
Yeah.
He's just creating his own whole world.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never thought about it like that. God is an alien. Yeah. That would be a great track title.
The best science fiction book in the world is the Bible, whichever which one you read, because it's full of science fiction.
Yeah.
Levitation devices, food replicators, transportation beams, healing devices. It's full of them.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
God made everything, including the aliens.
Yeah.
Who's God?
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, God could just be a bunch of aliens that come down. It's not a singular entity. It's just a great big galactic funfair. Like you said, like you mentioned earlier, Jenny, that sat there watching, seeing how everything unfolds, and maybe that's the whole point.
Yeah,
we are sat there to see how we evolve as a species.
Yeah, they are literally watching us like we're telly. You know, makes me laugh. It makes me laugh to think about. But you know, they're not just watching us. They can feel us, and like they can hear what we're thinking. You know, like they're watching us in a very very multi-dimensional way, which is kind of creepy, but like.
But if you've never listened to any of his seminars, he did a brief spell of doing seminars in 2012. I think 2010, 2012, and 2014 were the three major seminars that he did. If you can ever watch one of them, they're like 10 hours long. So they're broken up into 4 sort of 2.5-hour videos. But it's worthwhile watching what he has to say, because he talks specifically about what you're talking about. About aliens and how they interact with us, and how some are interacting in negative ways and how some are interacting with us in positive ways. So it's very, very interesting. So rabbit hole to go down. But we could probably spend hours on this one.
It's like a cosmic game of arm wrestling, isn't it? Like you're trying to push from that side, and then some of them are trying to like wake us up and help us, and then some of them are trying to bring us down. It's really like that, isn't it? And we're stuck in the middle. Like, you know, there's a tug of war.
We've got someone who's just joined the so welcome, David. No, been wanting to unmute, and we've unmuted. Never mind.
Okay.
A few final words, just so that we can stop the recording and then continue on afterwards in the after show chat.
Yeah, okay. I think, you know, I'll keep it really simple. So if you're curious, I think just start by saying hello and waving at the sky, and, you know, give permission for assistance, you know, be general or be specific. I think just know that they can help with anything and they want to. And with everything speeding up, and, you know, this is a big cosmic game of arm wrestling. And, you know, as long as it is difficult, you know, what Kevin is suggesting, you know, about that obviously there are the dark version, you know, and we can't sort of dispute that at all. That's happening, you know, and it is obviously down to your own discernment. But if you can kind of like just know that you've got fear, the fear is there, but like don't let that hold you back from like a really magical experience, and don't close the door on something like this that could change your life, like for the better. So I would say, you know, start saying hello to them, acknowledge their existence, and then just ask anything, and then just let it go, and then see what happens. Good luck.
Right, I've stopped the recording now.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah.